Hello and welcome to the YBMB show. Many of you follow us now and you know that we run this live Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. Mondays we talk about the body and tips of the body. Wednesdays we do mindset. I had Penny Power on Wednesday talking about her book, Business is Personal. And then Fridays we talk about business. And, sometimes I'm lucky enough to have a guest who's an expert in a particular area. And today's one of those days. I'm really happy that I've got Tracey Reddings on here. So hi, Tracey. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, good to see you, Angela. How are you?
Yeah, all good. Thank you. And Tracey is unusual because she was just telling me before we came on that she's one of only 17% of all financial advisors in the country that are female. So there's very few, well, I think we all know that most of us who've ever taken any financial advice, it does tend to be from men. And here's Tracey. She's one of the few female experts in this area. And she's going to talk to us today, particularly about financial advice for women. And it's really an interesting subject, I think. So maybe, thanks so much for joining us, like I say, Tracey. Maybe we can start off just with a little bit of your background, because you've had very extensive background in this area.
Yeah, sure. So I've spent the last 35 years working in the financial services industry. Started very young. I left school at 16 and started immediately working for a bank, but have spent the last 35 years advising clients, of which probably the last 20 of those have been in the private banking arena. And then a couple of years back, the thing I've loved most about this business is the client engagement. But the thing I realized about myself was I had this real passion for the equality of advice. And I just was getting increasingly frustrated in the corporate world that the importance of advice was falling way down the priority list. And I, to be frank, was sick of sort of product sales. So I took a pretty bold decision a few years ago to leave the corporate world. I have always described myself as what I would call an entrepreneur. So I always felt slightly odd in the corporate world because I was always building businesses, building teams successfully, but never quite felt I fit. And having sort of now been running my own business, an advisory boutique for 2 years, I realized I was just a frustrated entrepreneur. And probably not very good at taking instructions from others.
Oh, we obviously, I know you do some amazing things, got a fantastic track record, I do know that. What's interesting about your business is that your niche is females, that you provide advice and investment advice to females. And so maybe we just start with that why pick only females? Because is it that we don't, well, you tell me what was the reason for selecting that niche in the first place?
So, important to say that I do have male clients as well as females, but the priority for me and my drive really is particularly midlife women. Yeah. And where does that born from? If I told you that we as women over our lifetime are losing out around £1 million in our lifetime because we're underinvested. That's really born out of the fact that when you look at the statistics between men and women are more likely to remain in cash. And a lot of this is born out of a fear of not having enough, of losing money. And as a result, women are more likely, even if they do have the financial resources, to stay in cash rather than invested. And so as a result, losing out a fortune. The other thing that I worry about is that we've got something like 1.2 million women in their sort of approaching their 50s and now into their 50s that are heading into retirement. And this is professional women. This isn't just women on the street. This is professional women, 1.2 million professional women who have no real significant savings for their retirement. Well, if I told you we are now planning for 100-year life?
Oh, well, I'd say to you that's young. I'd say that's young because everyone who knows me on my program says that I'm aiming for 156. So Hopefully.
I love it.
100 is the new 60, I think.
Well, look, given your, and you are remarkable, given your fitness and how fantastic you look, I can absolutely believe if anyone's going to do it, you are, Angela. But even if we work on a 100-year life, that means all of us are likely to be spending longer in retirement than we did in our working life.
Yeah.
Into retirement with no savings. So
they can't retire even if they want to, can they? I mean, there's a few things occurring to me when you say that. I mean, the fact that people stay in cash, and I wonder, there's probably a whole load of reasons for that, isn't there? I mean, it can range from everything from us being more cautious because that's what we've been sort of encouraged to be as little girls, and like that whole dynamic of sort of, you know, be careful. Then sort of, you know, there's the other, I know it sounds sexist, but the other sort of original trend that it was the man that was the breadwinner, and so, you know, we didn't have to sort of invest like that for the future because the man would do it. And I suppose another one is, you know, well, we're just too busy prioritizing everybody else, you know. And then I suppose there could be another reason, which is that financial advisors, you know, who are not like you, would maybe traditionally go for the man because they would perceive the man to be a bigger earner. I don't know, what do you find is the real situation? Why is it the case that women stay in cash? Because lots of women are good earners now, as you say, and you just said that it's professional women who are earning well, as you know, not just women who are not working. So what's the reason, do you think?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because one of the things that I decided to do, as well as being a qualified advisor, was to qualify as a financial coach. And one of the reasons I did that was because I was finding increasingly in my conversations with women that there were all sorts of blockers and barriers around them making the right decisions for their financial wellness. And I think actually people, not just, I suppose, all people, but generally what I'm finding with women is that the influences in terms of how they think about their decisions when it comes to money, believe it or not, date right back to childhood. So it's the same as many psychological issues. Many issues in the way that we think about ourselves, whether we have belief in ourselves, what we believe to be fact, all get set from something like the age of 7.
Yeah.
You think about your money, your attitudes to money, and your experiences, your fears about money, or your behaviors about money, your habits. They generally, when we start to look under the skin of the issue, are all formed from a young age. So, you know, if you think about when we were growing up, you know, we were told by our fathers and our grandfathers that we were sort of brought up, we were the princesses, we would be looked after. Well, it's no wonder sort of that, you know, many women of our generation have grown up feeling like that they're expected to be looked after, or their job is to look after and nurture. And it's not that they don't have the right to have to make their own decisions when it money. So I do think there is a big issue around the money blockers and the money habits that get formed.
Yeah.
And part of the reason women stay in cash often, when we start to get under the skin of that and what's stopping them making the decision, is because of this fear of not enough. And when you couple that with women tend to focus on wealth, for women tends to be driven by security, stability, the future of their family, whereas and health and wellness, whereas men will very much think about it as financial security to give them more. And so I do think that there is something that starts quite early on, I think, in all of us, that's our agenda. Set our agenda about money and our behaviors about money. And I, you know, on my own journey, I went on my own journey when I was qualifying as a financial coach and sort of learning about my own habits. And I thought, you know, many of those have changed as I got financial security. The reality is they were deep rooted in me. So when I started my business, the biggest shock to me was having gone from going through divorce in my 30s, being a single parent, frankly, scared of receiving the bills through the post, to earning 7 figures, financial security, and not having to worry about money. When I set up my business, I couldn't understand this feeling of overwhelmment that I had, and being overwhelmed and anxious. And when I started to think about it, it still roots back to this fear of not having enough.
Yeah.
Despite the fact the money's in the bank, and was in the bank to help me build my business in the first few years before we built a profitable business. And I think these things never leave us.
Well, a lot of, what I teach to do with the body and with business as well is that, and I learned this from people like Tony Robbins, is that so much of what we set out to do, and whether we achieve it or not, it boils down to mindset and not strategies. If I sort of think about, how to get a 6-pack, we all know the strategies. There's a million free resources online, but we don't all walk around with one. Because the mindset of we don't necessarily believe we can get it. And same with a successful business, and I'm sure the same with finances as well. So obviously, as an advisor specialising particularly in women, I guess you're going to have to, that's one of your challenges, is to overcome that and to teach us women that it's equally important for us to do it as it is for men. One thing that just occurred to me as you were talking was, would you say that us women are bigger spenders on less, on more frivolous things? I mean, you don't see a man walking around with an expensive handbag, for example, or, must-have shoes, or, the latest season's whatever, fashion item. I mean, I think some men have a weakness for watches, but otherwise, us women tend to be more of a retail spender. Is that a problem? Do you see that, or generally not?
Absolutely is a problem, and it goes back to the psychology of money.
Yeah.
You know what it boils down to? It boils down to status. So I know when in the early part of my career, having those designer handbags and nice clothes and having the nice home were all important to me. And the reason they were important was because of this sort of inbuilt belief system that I had, and it was about status.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting when I suddenly realized actually none of this stuff matters. What matters is experiences in life, enjoying life, health and wellness, and family and friends. And I think the last year, has been a real leveler for all of that.
Oh, God, yeah.
I look at all of the stuff that is sitting in the wardrobe, like, beautiful handbags that I haven't even looked at in a year.
No.
And, but I'd rather, I would give anything. I'd give my last pound to be able to spend time with my family and friends and have fun in the way that we were weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true, isn't it? And I think as well, when you buy, and I think sometimes this does come with experience and age as well, because you buy all these things, and like you said, the homes and the cars and all of that. Because when it boils down to it, because I always ask why when people tell me their goals, because what it boils down to it is that you think it's going to make you a certain way, and if you get to the point where you get a lot of this stuff, and then find, well, actually, it doesn't make you feel a certain way. Experiences actually make you feel a certain way. Then it sort of stops you needing to buy all of this stuff. But I think sometimes you have to go through that and experience it yourself before you realise. But once people do realise that, and I think especially this year has been a bit of a wake up call for everybody. It's almost like we have been taken off of one planet and whizzed along and plonked down in a new one. Lots of people had to change, the way they haven't been spending. So I think people look back and look at what they were spending last year and think, my goodness, I didn't need to spend that. I spent so much less. But equally on the earning side as well. So people sort of jumped off that treadmill, but they probably got an appreciation a lot more. I know I have now, of what the minimum requirement is, where you can live a really, nice, comfortable life. And it's probably on a lot less than you actually thought it would be. And what I've always been taught from a financial advice perspective is to try to get investments that will generate sufficient passive income to cover at least that. And that's sort of step one of security. So taking into account all of the, the emotional sort of blocks that you mentioned, What are the strategies? I mean, how do you go about advising women? Is it any different to men? And I'm sure that there are men and women listening here, and you said that you have male clients as well. How do you go about how should people go about sorting out their finances? It's never too late either, is it?
No, and I think that's really important message. I think I'd start by distinguishing, sort of tying it into the last point, between being rich and being wealthy.
Right.
You can look rich and you can appear to be rich by having all the stuff in the world.
Yeah.
And you might be earning a fortune, but you also might have a high level of debt that you're servicing.
Yeah.
And I think you only have to look at some of the superstars around the world that have been worth hundreds of millions, centimillionaires, that today are worth virtually nothing because of the choices they made. So for me, it's all about making powerful choices. And I think choices are much more powerful than income, because if you make the right choices with your money, and you just articulated that in terms of the experience of the last year, just starting early and thinking about, so if we think about the amount of money that we might have spent just picking up the cup of coffee on the way to the office and then on the way to the next meeting, so on and so forth. And you top that up, how much you spend over the course of a month. Then in the same breath, I might have a conversation with a client who's not started saving towards their retirement, for example, and which is the most tax efficient way. We pay a lot of tax in our life. Why wouldn't we get some of it back? It's the most tax efficient way to build wealth for the future. But when I talk to them, let's keep the numbers simple for the purpose of this, but if I talk to them about £100 a month out of their salary to contribute towards their pension, suddenly they can't afford to do that and they worry about having the money to do that. But then when we start to get them to sit down and think about, well, how much do you spend on, just picking up the cup of coffee, or the 3 nights out a week having fun. Now, I'm not advocating that people shouldn't have fun, because, I, like everyone, like to go and have fun. But it's about balance. And then once people start to sort of take a step back and think, crikey, and I think this year has made people realize how much money they do spend. That maybe, and certainly we've seen savings go up over the last year as a result of COVID, one of the positives out of it. But if we take that pension, yes, £100 a month, but actually it's only costing you, if you're a basic rate taxpayer, £80. If you're a higher rate taxpayer, £60 a month.
Yeah.
You're getting £40 paid into your pension, essentially by HMRC, you otherwise wouldn't. And if you hadn't paid it into your pension, you pay tax on it anyway.
Of course.
No brainer, why wouldn't you? And I think, so sometimes it's about sort of demystifying it and simplifying it. Lots of women I talk to will say, well, I haven't done anything because I don't really understand it. And I had a conversation with a client the other day, and she said to me, oh my God, this is so straightforward. I've never understood the dynamics and the benefits of this before. No one, throughout my whole career, I've been building up all of these pension pots, never even thought about it. And nobody had ever explained it to me in a straightforward way, the features and benefits and the pros and cons of something like a pension or an ISA or other savings mechanisms. So I think it's about starting early. It's never too late to start. But clearly, the longer that you're invested, the bigger impact that you have, because you have a compounding impact.
And I think it always seems like, 20 years away seems a long way away, no matter if you're 25 or 55. But it really, really goes quickly. And, and even at 55, I think that it's worth people starting, because 75 now is not like 75 used to be. We might remember our sort of grandparents at 75 and they appeared like they were sort of old in retirement. But you look at 75-year-olds now. I mean, I was just showing my team a woman on Instagram, 74 years old, been weight training for 3 years. I mean, she looks phenomenal, strong, fit. She looks amazing. It's not to do with, her face or her hair or anything like that. It's her body. She's so strong. She's going to be going for years. So that's what really, if you look after yourself, you start looking after your body, you know, hence my program and why I connect it with business. If you look after your body, then you're going to be here for a long time to be able to achieve whatever it is you want, all of the wonderful experiences that you want, but you have got to have money to do it. And it's nice if you are able to change your career and, you know, have a series of businesses and a series of different careers. It's lovely to do that, but if you want to be doing it, and if you can't for whatever reason, or you don't want to because you now want to go and do a midlife backpacking year or whatever it is, it's nice to know that you've got that security coming through. And so you can put together for people a plan, can't you? No matter how much they're earning, you can put together a plan for people and show them. What I loved about what you said is you can show them a roadmap, how to get to a particular place by a particular time. And I love that, because it's really nice and clear.
I think that's right. And the way I look at it, because when I first met you, Angela, I love what you're doing, because when I first started thinking about this, I discovered weight training in my early 50s. I discovered before that mindfulness and the importance of having clarity of mind. And I thought, everyone spends their time thinking about health and wellness and their mental health, but people aren't taking the time to think about their financial health. And, for me, it was part of a three-legged stool, if you like. And it's important that we spend time on it. So, what I'd say to a lot of the women that I'm working with is, how much time do you spend in your career building your business plans and your strategies, whether you're working for a corporate or you're running your own business?
Yeah.
And so much of your time and energy in your business, doing your business plan and your vision for the future.
Yeah.
When you suddenly recognize, and I think for many of us, we recognize later in life when that middle starts appearing, and that the importance of health and well-being. I think nothing about paying for a personal trainer now, because I know it's an investment in me and my body to ensure that I will be here for at least 100-year life and hopefully beyond. And yet people don't think about engaging with a financial advisor. For me, it's exactly the same. I'm the personal trainer for your finances. Let's think about it like that. And for me, the reason I go to a personal trainer is because I know I'm a busy woman. I'm juggling lots of things. I just have no time. Frankly, if I didn't have the discipline of a personal trainer, I know I would fall off the wagon really quickly. Because I go to a personal trainer, I'm 54. I'll be 55 this year. I'm in the best shape of my life.
Yeah.
Discovered that weight training and a personal trainer. Now, if I just sit back and think, oh God, how much am I spending on that? But actually, how much is my life and my fitness and my health and my strength worth?
Yeah, it's not for now. It's for decades of the future.
I'm investing in a personal trainer now because I want to be here. Both my parents passed away at a young age and didn't enjoy their retirement and didn't enjoy their life. I don't plan to have the same outcome. And so investing in my health is critically important. But here for a long time, I've also invested in my finances as well.
Exactly, because you want to be here, but you want to be able to live that dream life as well. And it doesn't have to be on yachts in Saint-Tropez, although that would be nice. But you want to be able to, go and do the things that you enjoy without really stressing and having to do a 9 to 5 if you don't want to in 20 years' time. I find a lot of people join the program just before that decade tips, like they join when they're 20, 28, 29, 38, 39, 48, 49, 58, 59. It's always just before that sort of milestone birthday. And as you're sort of speaking like that, I would say if people, when they're thinking like that, they ought to really, if they haven't got a financial plan together, be thinking about exactly that then. One of the things that I did want to ask you about as well, Tracey, is that, you've got organisations like Hargreaves Lansdown now, and they're becoming a lot more mainstream, and they sort of, they say you can do it yourself, etc. And then when you look, there's a multitude of decisions to make in terms of, where am I going to invest and all of that. And I'm sure that must be off-putting as well. to people when you look at it, because you know, to be a successful trader, as it were, you would, you know, you'd have to spend an inordinate amount of time, and there are the indexes in that. But you know, when you're busy running your own business, that's not an area of expertise. I know for me with my training, before I actually got so involved in it to the point where I wanted to be qualified, I was very much of the mindset, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And then I got the results, and then I was like, wow, you know, I think I'm going to learn about this myself. But I mean, presumably you do something similar. You just tell people, talk to people, they start to see the result, and then you could just tell them what to do and they do it. Is that how it is? Or there is a place for some people to do Hargreaves Lansdown type stuff, but
I agree.
My experience with it was very complex.
I think it's very much akin to the conversation that we just had. I think you have do it yourself.
Yeah.
So that's going to a pure gym, and it's cheap, but you've got to work it out for yourself, and you've got to
stay accountable.
And frankly, you've got to be accountable, and I'm not that. And you've got to have discipline. You've also got to have the time to go.
Yeah.
You do it for you, and I'm in the you know, what I do is I do it for you. So I take the time, I sit down, I understand. There's a lot of conversation and understanding and getting to know you that happens before we even start to think about what solutions would be. What's interesting is, you know, I start conversations with clients and they'll often start jumping into the solutions and what should I do? And I said, we're not even going to talk about solutions. Before we can build a roadmap, we need to understand more about you, what's important to you, what drives you, and what that long-term vision is. What's the long-term vision for the money? What are what are your dreams? What do you want to be able to do? Right, let's work backwards from that. Let's create that roadmap which enables you to realize those dreams. So, and depending on what decade people are in, like you, people tend to approach me at different decades. So, you know, the conversations I have with women in their 30s is different from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And sadly, you know, we often engage with women when they're going through trauma, so divorce, or they've lost a partner, and for the first time they have to think about these things. But taking the time to get to know people in the same way as when you put together a personal training program for someone, a business strategy for someone looking to build their business, we're exactly the same around their finances.
There's so many parallels as you were speaking. You know, I was thinking about that because one of the things I find is when people join us, one of the things they're mortified to do, and I do remember it myself, is to show pictures of their body beforehand, the before picture, you know, but as their coach, you're going to have to see what you're dealing with, you know, and you're going to have to see how much body fat there is there and all of the rest of it. And people get like really mortified about doing it. And, you know, obviously we have conversations, and then so the interesting thing is once they make a transformation, they're whipping their clothes off, no problem, you know, and having all sorts of photos and having posing classes with us and stuff. So it doesn't last long, but people are embarrassed about it at the beginning, you know, because they don't necessarily want to sort of reveal everything. And same with business as well. If people got themselves into a situation where business is really tough and there's a lot of debt in the business, etc., people don't necessarily want to reveal that. And I'm assuming that you have this with people's finances, where people are private about their finances even more so, and they don't necessarily want to reveal their earnings or what debt they've got, or, you know, they're in bad shape in one way or another. But, you know, I'm guessing you're exactly the same as we are, which is, look, we just want to know what we're dealing with, and we're here then to take you forward. And we really don't care what we see. We really, really don't.
I don't quite ask my clients to strip off.
No, okay.
But actually, the analogy is exactly the same. You know, finances, you know, talking about people's finances is a really intimate topic.
Yeah.
Going back to that childhood thing, you know, we grow up being told not to talk about money. It's crass to talk about money. And so this is sort of built in us that, you know, it's rude to talk about money. Or we might be embarrassed to talk about money if we grew up without money. So the first job, I think, in terms of building, you know, the reason why this is different is because it's like building an intimate relationship with someone.
Yeah.
Dating someone, and you need to take the time to get to know them, trust them, and so part of my job is building that trust so that people feel comfortable to start sharing that information with me. And that takes time. It takes time to build that trust. And that's why the coaching part is as an important part of it as the advice part, because helping people uncover what stopped them starting the journey in the first place is important. And then building that trust so that they believe that actually I'm there just for one reason and one reason only, to look after their interests, make sure they make good, sound decisions. Money's emotive. And the people always make emotive decisions about money at the wrong time. People out of the markets when they panic about the volatility of the markets, which is normally the worst time to come out of the markets. Go back to the financial crisis in 2011, people that panicked and rushed to come out of the market, it took them at least 5 years to recover what they'd lost by coming out in those weeks. Prices, whereas the people that stayed invested actually have done incredibly well. Let me tell you one fact that I think people forget. Over a 20-year period, the stock market has never lost money. Stayed invested.
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying you have to be invested for 20 years. Even if you look at 5 and 10-year horizons, playing the long game and benefiting from the compounding, you will see your investments grow. But the problem is, and I think it's understandable, is that because it's emotive, like last March when we saw the market crash, my first job was get on the phone to everyone and reassure them. My job, so essentially that's where I'm steering a ship through the stormiest seas. And actually what I'm trying to do is stop people panicking, jumping over the side.
Because it's recovered.
Over the side.
Yes, you can see the recovery. It's more than recovered in some of the...
So the way I describe it to my clients is, think of, let me deal with the emotions. So if you're waking up in the middle of the night worrying about it, ring me. Ring me, and then let me talk it through with you. And if at the end of that conversation, it's still what you want to do, then that's what we'll do. But inevitably what happens is once we calm them down, once we get them thinking rationally again, normally the decision is a different decision.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I think that it's been so lovely having you on, Tracey, because I think anybody, well, firstly, you're a female, and like you say, 83% of financial advisors are male, so you're quite a rare species. And if people want to start to sort of look into putting together this financial plan, having listened to us, having listened to me in terms of the fact that, the science says that we could, accidents and illnesses aside, actually live to 156, can you believe? Every year that I went to a conference, it was based in Silicon Valley, that had all the top scientists there, including Nobel Prize winners, and what they were saying is every year that we live healthily, we're buying ourselves potentially another decade. And within the next 20 to 30 years, we ought to be able to basically pick how long we want to live. The problem then will be, where will we want to live? It might have to be on a different planet. But the fact is that, the way that we're built, from what they can see, it's designed to last until 156. So, so much you can do now to sort of age backwards. There's all sorts of biohacks and natural ways with natural foods and weight training, as you've discovered. So we're going to be here a long time, as long as we, do all of these simple things. And as I say, always accidents and illnesses aside, of course. So given that, we've got to do something about our financial future. I don't think for a minute that we're all going to be sitting on a beach for 50 of those years. As long as we feel strong, fit and energetic, we're going to want to go and do loads of things and take advantage of future opportunities. So I suppose that's my lasting comment is, we've got Tracey here now. You've got me if you want to learn how to be here, and you've got Tracey to learn about what to do with the money that you're going to earn, and to create this amazing secure financial future. So we'll put all the links in, and we'll probably get you to come in and talk to our YBMBers on the inside of the program as well, Tracey, because you've got some great things to share.
I'm really happy to do that, Angela. I'm really happy to share any of our sort of top tips and our blogs, and no expectation or obligation. I feel really passionately about educating women, so anything we can do to help, we're happy to do that. I think final comment, I said it earlier, is that choices are more powerful than income. And if you make the right choices, you'll have financial independence and you will be able to enjoy that 150-year life. Beggars belief, doesn't it? But if we're going to be here that long, then we want to have the financial security to enjoy it. And that's what I wanted to help people do.
Yeah, that's amazing, that line, actually. I certainly remember that. And what's the best way for them to find you, Tracey? What's your website, your best one to get to?
So you can find me on the normal socials. I'm on LinkedIn, Tracey Reddings on LinkedIn, on Instagram and Facebook. But the website is Reddings, Reddings, Wealth Management, WM. .co.uk. I've just, no, it's not even yes, it is .co.uk.
Yeah,
it's just double checking that. Don't even know my own website. The website, but you can find me. I post regular blogs on Instagram and under Reddings Wealth Management and Tracey Reddings.
Fantastic. Well, great. And yeah, like I say, we'll post all the links and that as well with this talk. So thanks so much for sharing your time. And I'm sure we'll chat again. And good luck to everybody who with their financial future. Get saving.
Thank you so much. Yeah, great to see you. Take care.
See